We are on cycle 3. I would like you to open up your books to page 135. We're starting with the chapter Into the Black Down Under. Follow along. We're going to continue to look for contrast or differences and the tension, so that uncertainty. We have to leave the old lady's place because you never know. The cops might come knocking on each door. They're like bugs, my father says. They're not too smart, but there's a lot of them, and they keep at it. On the other side of the alley is this boarded up building. It used to be part of the Testaments until a fire burned it out, and my father decides we'll hide there until Iggy gets a car for us. He reaches out and pulls off a big piece of plywood with his hand. The screechy noise the nails make sounds like a cat fight, and the next thing, there's a real cat, a black one, that leaps out from behind plywood. My father jumps so hard he yanks me to the ground and I bump my head. "Dumb animal," he says. "Get up now. That's just a scratch. A little blood never hurt a man." It doesn't hurt, and anyhow I sort of like the taste of salt in my mouth. It makes me feel awake. Here's the first sign that we see anything other than feeling numb or empty in Max. He feels a little bit awake. "Get in there," he says, and then he's pulling me through this old burned out window, and we're inside the building. Everything is black and wet and dripping, except for where the snow is coming down through holes in the roof. Most of the inside walls are gone, and you can see where the center beam was chewed by the fire. All the old pipes and wires are hanging down, and everywhere underfoot is broken glass, the color of smoke. So everything's just really dark. I used to wonder exactly what hell looked like, he says. Now I know. He finds a place where the stairs go into the basement, and he pulls away the boards and planks. "You should feel right at home," he says. "Cooped up like you were in that cellar hole." It's so dark he has to use a cigarette lighter, and the flame is so puny you still can't see the bottom of the stairs. "You go first," he says. "We can't have both of us on the same step. It might break." The steps are made of thick wood, but slick and punky, so soft, where the water has been dripping all these years, and I can feel how it sags under my feet. There's a rail that's hard to grab with my hands tied, and the way he's holding up the lighter, you might as well keep your eyes closed because it's that dark. You can't see a thing. So I'd like to take a pause here, and I'd like to contrast the real Down Under with the black Down Under. So I'd like you to think about words to describe the Down Under back at Grim and Graham's house. I'll give you 10 seconds to think about some of those words. All right, say a few of them. What are some words that come to mind? Comfortable, home, warm, light-ish. It's at least you can be able to see. Here he's talking about it's so dark you can't see a thing. It's soft, but it's not comfortable. It's not warm, and it's definitely not home. So it's dark, it's dangerous. I slip and start to fall, and then he's pulling. We're starting at this paragraph. I slip and start to fall, and then he's pulling back on the rope, and I'm hanging there in the middle of the air with my feet skittering, and he's going, "Easy does it, boy. We take this one step at a time." Finally, we get to the bottom. There's a little slant of light coming through this narrow cellar window, enough so we can feel our way around all the burned junk that's fallen through the floor. "The accommodations could be better," he says. "I'll grant you that. Soon as Iggy fixes things, we'll be on our way." He ties my feet back and loops the rope tight around this busted boiler that's tipped over, so I can't move or see what's behind me. "Understand you can't be trusted quite yet," he says. Once we get on the road, things will be different. You'll get smarter every mile we put between us and this place." I'd like you to pay extra attention here to the contrast of this next paragraph. He rips a piece of my shirt and ties it on my mouth so I can't be shouting, he says, and wake up the neighborhood. He rubs his hands through my hair, again, real gentle. I'm pretty sure there's a sweet smile on his face, although it's so dim you can't be sure. "You just sit tight here a minute," he says. "I have to see a man about a car." All right, we're gonna discuss this. How is he treating Max right now? In this last paragraph where he rips part of the shirt and ties it on his mouth so he can't talk, but also he's rubbing his head like, yes, you're my son, and being all nice. Do we know what to expect from Kenny Kane? Do we know how he's going to treat Max at any moment? No. There's so much tension here. The difference between treating him like he's a prisoner and treating him like he's his son, there's that huge difference. And he's doing it all at the same time, so we don't know what's going to happen. Let's continue at then. Then he's gliding away, and I hold myself still in case this is a trick and he's really sneaking up behind me to see if I can get my hands loose, which I can't. They're numb and bloated from the rope cutting into my wrists. And finally, I stop trying and just sit there letting my eyes open up in the dark. I can barely make out that narrow window, hardly big enough so a cat could slip through, and under it is this big pile of coal slagged up against the foundation wall. Overhead, there's creaking with the weight of him moving around, trying to be light on his feet. I'm listening to him up there and trying to see out that little window when something moves against the light. I'm pretty sure there's a scratching and sound coming from the window, except you can't always believe what you hear in the dark. Then whatever it is goes away, and I'm thinking it was probably a cat or maybe a dog sniffing around. Finally, I just keep still because the more I move, the tighter the rope gets. Next thing, I hear someone on the steps. These light feet trying to be real quiet, and then a flashlight comes on and this woman's voice says, "You there, kid?" Loretta Lee! I can't say anything because of the gag. All I can do is sort of kick around a little, let her know where I am. You can tell by her shaky, thin voice she's scared of the dark. "Kid, tell me that's you. Oh, Lord Jesus, what am I doing down here?" We're going to pause there. Looking at these questions, let's talk about the contrast from this chapter so far. The first one, in the Legends of King Arthur, the Black Knight is a villain who is actually the opposite of the true knight. Why might Max call this location the Black Down Under? I want you to consider multiple reasons. Consider the literal color of the place, and then I want you to consider kind of what's happening there. Why might it be the Black Down Under? Pause the video and answer that question. Our second question, we want you to reread this moment. This is what we discussed in the book. What contrast do you notice in Kenny's actions, and what might this how might this contrast increase the tension or that uncertainty of what's going to happen of this moment? If you need to rewind the video and look back at that part, do that now. When you're done, move on to cycle forward.